Not quite clean. Give me one sec. I'm probably not going anywhere. I just want to do this quick wipe. I feel like it's a little bit better. All right. Welcome. Another Square and Compass live stream. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's having a good Tuesday. As always, please hit like, please hit subscribe. Let me know what your thoughts are on Freemasonry. Positive, negative, or neutral. I'd love to hear them. Now we're going to give it a bit of time. We're just going to wait to see who joins. There's some interesting news happening today. UAE, United Arab Emirates, has quit OPEC, I guess, effective May 1st. So it's going to have some interesting effects on the economy. Again, I just had this conversation with somebody a couple of days ago saying as gas prices are increasing, one of the issues that they're having is it costs them more and more money to get to and from Masonic Lodge meetings. This is not going to help anything, certainly. $2 super chat, you'll hear it text to speech. UAE to quit OPEC. Here it is. Sorry, just 1 second. UAE to quit OPEC and blow towards leading oil exports as Iran war roils energy sector. That's not the best phrasing, war and royals. What the UAE pulling out of OPEC means for the US, the United Arab Emirates ditching the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, is a significant blow to the Middle East's ability to keep oil prices artificially high, but could also be disruptive to U.S. oil producers and could complicate the region's ability to respond to future emergencies. The United States is energy independent, kind of. It produces more than it consumes, but it still imports about a third of its oil from overseas. That's because the light, sweet crude that America drills is great for making gasoline, but lousy for making heavier fuels and other petroleum-based products. So the United States still relies on the Middle East for some of its crude. Diminishing OPEC's power could be a good thing for consumers in the long run. The UAE is the second largest producer in the region, so it will serve as a major new competitor on the market. They can't produce oil-free restrictions set by OPEC member nations. For U.S. producers, the long-term implications are less certain. Downward pressure on oil prices, which trade on a global stock market, could dent big oil's profit. The world has been oversupplied with oil before the Iran war, even with OPEC's production restrictions. So it's not clear that longer-term demand will support more production from the UAE. It also shows that the Iranian war is making permanent changes to the way the world does business, opening up new supply chains. Those changes may not stop with the UAE, so the market shifts that are going to affect you are only beginning to take shape. I've said it a million times, I'll say it a million more. You cannot separate the conditions of Freemasonry from the conditions of the communities in which it's located, be they political, social, or economic. And that includes, by the way, conditions related to the price of oil. What is what, Thomas? And welcome. Thank you for being here. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what your thoughts are. Who is what? What are those? I don't know what those are. And we're just giving a bit of time, waiting to see who joins. And any thoughts you have, anything you want to share on Freemasonry, please let me know. The first, as always, the first hour or so, or the first 60 minutes, I don't have any specific talking points. I just answer questions. I was thinking today about talking about and reading some passages from different Masonic works. Maybe I'll even do morals and dogma, even though it's a pain because everybody misinterprets and misunderstands that book. But for the time being, we're just going to wait to see who joins. Hit like, hit subscribe, and I hope everybody's doing well. Nice, Courtney. That's awesome. Uh, First of all, that's really good for you for donating your old bed to the Shriners Motor Parade. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. And getting a new bed is always awesome. So that's very, very cool. I am not a cybersecurity person. I am a Freemason, Cat Nation. I don't know if there's any overlap. I don't think I've ever met any Freemasons who work in cybersecurity, but I am not. I promise you, I know nothing about cybersecurity. If you're looking at me for any cybersecurity advice, you're going to be very disappointed. Yes, they do, Husafel. Freemasons do have age qualifications. Normally, so in my jurisdiction in Ontario, you need to be at least 21 years of age to join. In Michigan, you need to be at least 18. It depends. Every jurisdiction has different rules. If you're too young to join Freemasonry, however, you can look at joining DMLA, which is a youth group for young men ages 9 to 21. Hello, Norbert. Thank you for being here. I think you're new to the stream. I don't recognize your name, although your name is strange. Please hit like nonetheless. What do you work then? What your work and what can you teach? Well, I do this for work, or at least I try to do this for work, so please support the channel. And I try to teach about Freemasonry, or at least my views on Freemasonry and my understanding of it, for whatever it's worth. Nothing related to computers, though, other than the fact that my work is on computers. I mean, here I am, right? Hello, Shaitan. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. I think you're new to the stream. Hit that subscribe button. Let me know what your thoughts are on Freemasonry. Hello, Max. I've had some people on here from Sweden before. I hope you're doing well. I am not a physics teacher, but I do enjoy physics. Where am I from? I am from Canada, living in Windsor, Ontario, born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So I talk about Freemasonry. There's actually a lot of Freemasonry, for the record. There's actually a lot of Freemasonry in Sweden. I don't know as much about it as I'd like, but I do try to learn more about it every day. So, well, I don't know if I'm serious or professional, but I try to be both. I hope you'll take a moment to hit the like button and the subscribe button, and let me know how you're doing. If you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. Nice. How did the shopping go? Hope it wasn't too expensive. Prices are going up. What Freemasonry means? Um, so Freemasonry, Cat Nation, Freemasonry refers to a civic club or a community group that's been in existence for about 300 years, maybe even longer. Let's say going back to 1634. So it's a civic group or a club that's been in existence for over 300 years that evolved from stone masonry guilds in the Middle Ages. Um, think about it like a club or a group that just has a lot of tradition and a lot of history behind it. And that's one of the really cool things about it that I love is just how much incredibly cool things there are associated with the history of it. But ultimately, it's a club, it's a group. Um, White M with them stuff. So what you're talking about when it comes to putting in a brick wall is not Freemasonry. What you're talking about is stone masonry. Stone masonry is, the thing from which Freemasonry evolved. Uh, so we use a lot of Masonic symbolism and Masonic ideas, however, and tools and things of that nature, but they're used symbolically, not literally. So if you want to build a brick wall, you need to talk to a stonemason. If you want to perhaps build yourself into something better, or at least try to be better than you were yesterday, that is what you want to look at for Freemasonry. It's a club or it's a group. Now, again, it evolved from stonemasons. Stonemasons are ultimately a very important part of our history, but we're not the same thing. So Freemasonry is not a religion. To be a Freemason, you have to believe in a supreme being. However, the nature of that supreme being is completely up to you. So we have members of all different religions and all different backgrounds and all different beliefs, including but not limited to, we have Christian Freemasons, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Sikh. However, as I noted, Freemasonry itself is not a religion. Um, so you need to keep that in mind, right? There's some Masons like me, we don't necessarily even have a particular religious belief per se. That's not to say we're not religious or we don't have belief in a supreme being. We do, but we don't assign to any specific or particular religion. Um, Thank you, Sundowner. Please hit like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Well, I mean, there is no ultimate goal of the brotherhood except to spend time with one another. I mean, what is the ultimate goal of you going out with your friends on a Friday night? What is the ultimate goal of having friends? In this case, we have brothers, not friends, but ultimately it's the same basic principle. I've always said the ultimate belief within Freemasonry is that it's worth spending time with other people. And that is kind of what Freemasonry focuses on and supports. Every Mason will have different goals when he joins. Sometimes the goal is to try to create a better world using kind of the privileged position of, like, in the same way I'm privileged in that I can help my neighbors. I'm in a privileged position to help them because I live next to them. In some ways, being a Freemason puts you in a privileged position to help the community. But there is no ultimate goal beyond that, beyond spending time with other people. Some may join for self-improvement purposes. Some may join for community improvement purposes. Some may join with no real goal other than they like the idea of being part of something that is history. Some may join because their families are Freemasons, right? And they want to be closer to their families. When you say groups that are opposed to it, I did not know that, Dad. Um, when you say, how do you deal with groups um, that it perceives to oppose it? I mean, when it comes to Freemasonry and this idea of opposition, there are different, people have different misconceptions about Freemasonry. The Catholic Church has misconceptions about Freemasonry, or you could say opposes Freemasonry. I'm not a big fan of that as an idea, this idea of it's not up to us to deal with those things. People are free to think what they want about Freemasonry. It's not our place to. All I can do is express what Freemasonry actually is and my experiences within it and let people decide for themselves. Although, honestly, we are far more. The issue we have right now has nothing to do with, like, genuinely has nothing to do with groups opposing us. Our biggest opposition is not coming from different groups, it's coming from how comfortable the couch is after a long day of work or whatever's on Netflix at the time, or people feeling economically insecure. And as a consequence of that, choosing to take extra shifts and more overtime instead of going to the lodge meeting, or the price of gas, the price of oil, resulting in brethren debating whether they're going to actually spend the money to drive to the Masonic Lodge when they'd rather just stay home, like, or not spend the money. I mean, it's one of those things where this idea of the biggest opposition to Freemasonry is it's within the house, right? The call is coming from within the house. It has nothing to do with different groups opposing us. It's completely, again, economic factors, social factors, and just how tired everyone is working more hours and not having the time to come to lodge is kind of what it is. I am a Freemason lion killer. I've been a Freemason for just about 20 years. So lion killer, please hit like and subscribe as someone who's new here, and I appreciate you being here. Well, when you say Albert Pike's book, Phil, I assume you're referring to Morals and Dogma. You need to be really careful with how much you accept or, take. You need to be really careful with what you say, what people think about Albert Pike. He has been grossly overestimated in his importance to Freemasonry and the things he says. In fact, at the very start of Morals and Dogma, he gives this disclaimer where he says, "Every reader is entirely free to reject and dissent from whatsoever herein may seem to him to be untrue or unsound." He was not writing a Masonic Bible. He was not writing a Masonic guidebook. He was not writing Masonic legislation. He was writing his philosophies on Freemasonry and what he thinks of Freemasonry. I don't think anybody deserves to be kept in the dark, whether they're Mason or not. How, in terms of, why I love Freemasonry, what Freemasonry does for the world. But I think every organization, every group, be it civic, civil, a business group, is entitled to maintain, private qualities to it. You have NDAs in businesses, you have obligations in Freemasonry. The purpose is to maintain the bonds of brotherhood and maintain the bonds between membership. And I think that's a worthy goal, and I think that's a worthy effort. Well, I'm glad he had a good speech. That is awesome. I'm no fan of Trump myself, but he is a decent public speaker. People always say that introverted, errant. Please hit like and subscribe. No evidence that that's true. I think that's just a myth. I know if you put the two together, it looks similar, but that would be true of almost any X. Thank you, Lion Killer. I'm glad you find it cool that I'm a Freemason. Sorry, B7 10X, but I've known high altitude investing for a little while, so what can I say? He's a good dude, and I enjoyed talking to him about crypto and Freemasonry. What did you think of the discussions? Yes, 7YX. I've got a big head. I've grown to accept it. Well, thank you, Someone Dead. If it's been a while since you've seen me, it could be because you don't have your notification bell turned on. So make sure you have that notification bell turned on. That way, whenever I'm streaming, you'll get a notification and you'll be able to find me. A lot of times people have said, like, I haven't seen you in a while. It's just because there's so much content produced on YouTube. If you don't have the notification bell turned on, it's very easy to get kind of lost in the sauce. Okay, so what would you say is the one thing maybe that we missed B710X? What's the one thing you think, like, how would you apply crypto to Freemasonry? Well, Lion Killer, I mean, conspiracy theories can be fun, I'll admit, when it comes to Freemasonry. Conspiracy theories can be fun in general, but I think we need to be really careful with them. I think very often they can cause way more harm than it's worth. And they can be way more dangerous to people because I met way too many people who've started into conspiracy theories and then fallen down some pretty scary rabbit holes about them. So I think we need to be really careful the extent to which again, they can be fun, but we need to be careful. Um, a body is just a package that a person comes in. It is a person. So what you're saying, David Thompson, is it's about the internal qualifications, not the external. And I would agree with you on that. I think Freemasonry teaches us the same thing. It's the internal that matters, not the external. Um, I would agree with that 100%. Just the technical knowledge, but how I would apply it is a trust-based system and in-house currency. So what type of missions and rankings would you have? I mean, if you want to be on the podcast, B7, shoot me off an email. You should have my email address, right? Email address, right? Info, this is for anybody, by the way. info@squareandcompass.ca. You can check it out. I'll take it. He's a good actor. Hello, Nor Winnar. Please hit like and subscribe. Oh, well, then I'm very sorry. I've just been swamped. But send me another one so it's at the top of my list. I don't want to make any promises, but I'm sure I could have you on. It wouldn't be a live stream, it would be a recorded interview. Um, and I'll see what I can do. Again, I never make any promises. Very sorry if I missed your last email. Although some of my emails weren't getting through, in fairness. I'm trying to fix my email system right now. Gnostic beliefs advocate. So, I mean, I can't speak to the compassion in that because I mean, or I guess what I switch over is I'd say I can't speak to this salvation element. Gnostic beliefs advocate gnosis and the idea that salvation comes from enlightenment. Freemasonry is not a religion of any sort, nor is it a philosophy based on salvation. To me, salvation, either promises of salvation or threats of damnation, that is ultimately a matter of religion. Freemasonry is not going to save your soul. By the same token, not being a Freemason is not going to send you the other direction or damn you. Freemasonry ultimately is about here on earth. If you're looking for salvation, especially in a spiritual sense, you need to talk to your religious leaders, whatever they may be. I would never say personally that knowledge will, equate with salvation. I do think the more knowledge you have, the better able you are to live here on earth, to be a good neighbor, to be a good friend, to be a good employee, to be a good brother. Um, I've always thought that knowledge makes you better at social intercourse and existence here on earth and existence within your community. But if you're talking about salvation, I think that's a different thing than what Freemasonry provides, at least to me. Um, in terms of knowledge is earned and not given, I mean, there's some truth to that, but that's true for life altogether, right? If I want knowledge about how a company works and operates, there are some things that they'll provide me publicly, but there's some knowledge I won't be able to get unless I join that company and then earn it through years of service. Within stone masonry, building things from stone, it's the same thing. Knowledge is earned via my work and effort. I don't just show up and know how to build things with stone and how to be a stonemason. I have to earn it through hard work and dedication and commitment, and by listening to my teachers. Freemasonry takes that idea and applies it in the civic context, but it's the same basic principle. You know, even taking time to go to the library and borrow a library book on, let's say, physics and reading it is an example of you earning knowledge. Knowledge is not just given to you. You have to spend your time and you have to spend your attention earning the knowledge contained within the book. So, I mean, I think there's a compassion to making people or expecting people to earn knowledge and not just giving it to them. They won't appreciate it if it's just given. Well, I mean, the middle path, somewhat. I don't know exactly what you mean by the middle path. There's definitely the idea in Freemasonry about balance, right? And you don't want to go too far into avarice, but you also don't want to go too far into intemperance. You don't want to go too far into profusion. You don't, you want to, when things are going well for you, you don't want to become super, I'm trying to think what the word is. Like when things are going really well, you don't want to become um, convinced that like, oh, things will always go well for me. Presumptuous. And when things are going badly, you don't want to become too despondent. You want to find that middle ground of temperance, which is a very valuable thing. The idea of wisdom transcends religion. Freemasonry is not trying to transcend religion, nor is it trying to transcend spirituality. Freemasonry occupies a completely different space than religion and then spirituality. That's like saying, does eating a steak transcend eating vegetables? They're different things. They're different, they're not mutually exclusive. Right, I would never tell anybody that Freemasonry is a substitute or transcends their religious beliefs. And I would hope that no religion would ever say your religious life transcends your community or your civic life. They occupy different spaces. They each provide value in their way, but one does not transcend the other. All right, B7, get yourself to work. Congratulations on the new job. That's awesome. Congratulations on that. I wish you best luck in your new job. I'm doing well, YouTube Stabworthy. How are you? Balancing the scales is important. Some people are just, well, we're all born knowing certain things. We're all born having certain, at least biological knowledge, right? We know how to eat, we know how to breathe, know how to sleep. Um, when it comes to this idea of, like, I don't think anybody's born knowing, for example, 2 plus 2 equals 4, but I think we are each born with certain innate skills and abilities that are different and that lead us to certain types of knowledge. Some people are probably born with an interest in mathematics and science, so it makes sense that for them, they're going to acquire mathematical knowledge quickly. Others are born more artistic, others are born, maybe they have poetic skills, they're good at talking, whatever it might be, they develop those skills as a consequence, right? If that makes any sense. I mean, sure, you could argue, Phil, that I mean certainly there's an emphasis on Freemason in this idea of knowledge and learning, especially in emulation ritual in the second degree. So much of it is emphasized and focused on knowledge and learning and liberal arts, things of that nature, liberal arts and sciences. But I don't think it's meant to transcend you in a religious sense or to connect you to a higher power or religion. Precisely, so certainly you could argue that knowing more about, let's say, geometry better helps you understand the universe and therefore the supreme being. If you view, when I say supreme being, it could be Jesus, Allah, Yahweh, whatever it might be, right? Like if you believe, let's say your supreme being, you're a Christian Freemason, and your supreme being is Jesus. Certainly, having more knowledge about the world and the liberal arts will in some ways better help you connect to your version of the supreme being because this whole thing would be his creation. So in some ways, geometry would be the language through which he speaks to us. Or it could be true for Allah or whatever it might be. So if you want to say that we in Freemasonry encourage knowledge as a way to better understand one's religious beliefs, I mean, I suppose that's possible and a way to look at it, but I would still push back against that a little bit and say, at least in my experience, ultimately, while science and knowledge and learning can definitely help you maybe become closer to your religious beliefs, ultimately for religious questions, the place at which it should end should always be your church, right? I will tell people learn more about geometry, it'll help you understand your supreme being. But I would say at the end of the day, what I'm saying is a disclaimer that the best place to learn about your supreme being and your religion is within your religious institutions. But I would say if you want to learn more about how to be a good neighbor, a good friend, a good brother, Freemasonry provides a lot of value to those lessons and to that and to those teachings. And I'd say Freemasonry provides a very good place to develop those skills. Although, in the same way, you could get those same skills from, for example, being a football player. Um, do I think that we're the only creature that has free will? I don't. I think other creatures have free will as well, although free will is a very hard thing to free will is a very hard thing to define. What about knowledge of other things that people are not aware of? What do you mean, Jeremy? I mean, again, the well, that's true. Symbols do carry meanings, but they're not meanings. The symbols we give we give the meaning to the symbols. The symbols themselves don't have inherent meaning, right? Like this symbol, oops, right? Right? The Masonic symbol, it has meaning to me because I'm a Freemason and I care about it. If somebody who's never heard of Freemasonry, never heard of Freemasonry at all, sees it, it's not going to mean anything to them. They may find it beautiful, or they may find it ugly for that matter, but that's an aesthetic decision, that's an aesthetic response. That's not a response based on any actual like imbued meaning. It's just responding to how it looks. And again, that is something that's imbued, aesthetics. Humans respond to the way things look based on evolutionary pressures, right? And there's a knowledge and understanding of if something looks a certain way, we can assign that with strength, stability, geometry. But that's not the same thing as meaning precisely. Although I suppose that could be splitting hairs. Again, the Fibonacci sequence, people will find that beautiful, and there's definitely a level of meaning imbibed therein. The individual decides what it really means, Phil, right? The individual decides. I've said this before. One of the reasons that Freemasonry is not a religion, within a religion, you usually have a priest, a rabbi, an imam, a leader of some sort who will tell people the proper interpretation of the religion's symbolism, right? So, or book or words. So they'll read a Bible passage and they'll say this is the way it is to be interpreted. They'll read a passage from the Quran, whatever it is, and they'll say this is how it is interpreted. Freemasonry is not a religion, which means every member is free to interpret the symbols as they see fit. In fact, one of the things I often do, and I'm grateful to do when it comes to Freemasonry, when I'm trying to teach people how to learn, or when I'm trying to teach people how to memorize Masonic work, one of the things that I do is I talk to them about. I'll ask them after they've read out a piece from our Masonic ritual. I'll ask them, okay, what does that mean to you? Like, what do you think that means? And it could be something completely different than what I understand it means, right? But the beautiful thing about that is they're free to have that interpretation. So there is no one correct interpretation of any Masonic symbol. Um, Revelations, well, first of all, it's revelation, not revelations, so you've got the name wrong. Second, Freemasonry is not the largest criminal organization in the world. It's not a criminal organization of any sort. It's also decentralized. And also, it is not Epstein. Freemasonry has nothing to do with Epstein. So you're wrong about that as well. Yeah, I know many Muslims who are Freemasons. I don't know if I've ever met a Buddhist Freemason. I've heard of Buddhist Freemasons. I met some Hindu Freemasons. I'm not sure if they're similar. I'm not sure if they're similar. Um, I'm not sure if they are, to what extent the Buddhism and Hinduism are similar, but they are. They are. But again, I've heard of Buddhist Freemasons. Yeah, to be a Freemason, you simply need to believe in a higher power. The nature of that higher power is completely up to you. Um, and so I've known many Muslims Freemasons. I've heard of Buddhist Freemasons as well. RKX teaches that all information comes from the field. I'm not sure who RKX is, introverted errant. Let me know. Jeremy is 100% right about that. We all go through rituals whether consciously aware of it or not. Well, I have less than 20,000 at the moment. I have 3,900. Help me get to 4,000. I'd really, really appreciate it. CEO of my time, thank you for being here. Um, you are wrong, Revelation. You have not been paying attention to what Freemasonry is. Rico Weiler, please hit like and subscribe. He is not the most reviled Mason, revered Mason in America. This weird obsession with Albert Pike drives me insane. And also, I'm not even in America, I'm Canadian. Um, Albert Pike provided his opinions on Freemasonry. That was it. It was a philosophical book, not a legal book, not a constitutional book, nor a dogma or theological book. Um, well, Jasmine, sorry, I'm not going to give you a mod. I'm trying not to give mods out as much as I used to, but um, I hope you hit the like and subscribe button at least. How are ontology as pertaining to the governing principle of reality and, well, Phil, Freemasonry is not a singular belief system or singular philosophy. You'd have to ask each Freemason what they think in terms of, what an ontological or epistemological principle is. I mean, I can tell you for me, Freemasonry, in my experience, is much more concerned with epistemology than ontology, right? Ontological principles are probably more the realm of one's religious or spiritual beliefs, whereas learning a way to gain knowledge and a way to learn more about the world is probably closer to what Freemasonry, generally speaking, focuses upon. That's good, Revelations. That doesn't mean you're a Freemason. Freemasonry, to join, you need to join of your own free will and accord. So you can have Masonic family members. I have Masonic family members. I was not a Freemason until I chose to join myself. I don't know who is a liar. I mean, probably the people, Johnny Leach, that you're looking at on social media telling you that Albert Pike is revered. Some people love him. I find him challenging and difficult, but So people use those terms interchangeably, Masons, Freemasons, um, but they both basically mean the same thing as a general world. Um, well, Jeremy, it actually does. I've actually written about this on Medium. There's definitely evidence that, especially historically, rituals were how human beings became closer and more connected with themselves. There's this idea of something called the bicameral mind. Now, the bicameral mind, it was talked about in Westworld a lot. It was basically the idea that ancient humans were not conscious in the way that you and I are conscious, rather, that they had an inner monologue, which they ascribed to, they ascribed that inner monologue to gods, when in fact it was simply their own inner thoughts trying to communicate with them. It was like they were of two minds. Um, and they were simply being led and told what to do by the part of their mind that they perceived to be the gods. And rituals were a way to communicate with gods, really meaning that part of their mind that was giving them instructions on how to proceed. And it was through ritual and through ceremony that human beings actually developed within themselves the ability to be fully conscious and aware, because as they communicated with the gods, they communicated with, in fact, themselves. If that makes any sense. And if it didn't, you can check out my Medium article about that very topic. Um, this guy is lewing to you, or he's ignorant. I would suggest, Johnny Leach, that you are the ignorant one. You clearly don't know what you're talking about, which is fine. You don't have to know what you're talking about. Um, but maybe a little bit more humility. I've been a Mason for 20 years. I've traveled around the world for Freemasonry. I'm not exactly sure what you've been doing, Masonically speaking, but it sounds like looking up a bunch of baloney on social media. Um, Archaics is a YouTube channel focusing on chronological history. That's cool. I mean, I'll look him up. I'll see how he's doing. I'm not sure. I can't speak to him. I've never seen him before, so. Well, it's an ontological belief, I suppose. But again, the belief would be, um, right, because it's not a specific belief, the one ontological statement you can take from it is there is a higher power, but Freemasonry is completely agnostic as to what that supreme being, higher power is. It's not suggesting or saying, for example, that the Christian version is correct or incorrect, or the Muslim version is correct or incorrect. What it's really saying is each individual Mason is free to decide for himself what he believes. No different than your neighbor is free to decide for himself what he believes, or your colleague, or your friend. It's not our place to say. So it's an incredibly broad ontological belief, which is there is a supreme being, I suppose. But I mean, even somebody like me, my supreme being is the rational nature of the universe as expressed through science and expressed through geometry. And so because of that, it's very hard to argue that that's not a particularly strong ontological belief to hang your hat on. I'd say it's more of an epistemological belief in that it's telling you there is something and then leaving it up to you to find it as best you can. And that's more about the process of learning as opposed to the belief itself. Hello, Sonry, Sewnryh. Hello, I hope you're doing well. Please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral. I'd love to hear it. Trying to find this Archaics character. Trying to remember how it's spelled now. 187,000 subs, so he's doing pretty well. And he's got every mystery in the ancient world and today is explained in simulation theory. Okay. Well, I would never. I would never get mad at somebody if they're poking good-natured fun at Freemasonry. If they're kind of being jerks about it, I would get annoyed because it's a thing I love. But I'm not going to be overly shirty about people kind of making fun of it in general. I think that's silly. Thank you, Courtney. Don't forget Patreon, share videos, comments, all that good jazz. It's as serious as people want it to be. Freemasonry is not inherently serious, but Nothing is inherently serious. It's up to us to decide if we love it or not, right? And if it's serious, if you care about it, then that's a good thing. I think it's up to us to care about things. I think that's something we should really be grateful for is when we choose to care about things. I mean, there's nothing I can't tell you. There are things I choose not to tell you because I want to maintain the bonds of brotherhood. And to maintain those bonds of brotherhood, again, um, it's incredibly important that I maintain certain private elements. No different than, and they also don't belong just to me. It's no different than a family recipe. I choose not to share the family recipe because it's not mine to share, and maintaining its privacy maintains the bonds between the family members. Maybe. I guess it depends what you guys are saying about it, but graciousness is sometimes a good thing. Well, I mean, geometry is the same wherever you go, right? I mean, if you live on Mars, if you live on Alpha Centauri or whatever it is, geometric, the geometry of the universe is the same anywhere, whether you be in America, Asia, Mars, a million light years away. So sacred geometry naturally is gonna you know, a squared plus b squared equals c squared is true anywhere. The Fibonacci sequence is true anywhere and everywhere. So it makes sense that different cultures would develop similar understandings of geometry. That's an example, in my opinion, of just the rational nature of the universe. We're just going to keep hanging out, wait to see who joins. We got 3 subs away from 3,930. So help a brother out. Let's get us to 3,930. I'd really appreciate it. As always, I hope everybody is having a great day. Well, then your uncle should go to jail if he's threatening you. We have many pictures on our walls, and I'm always happy to show them off to people. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Your uncle also could have been part of a clandestine Masonic group, which is not a recognized Masonic body. You need to keep that in mind as well. Just because someone says they're a Mason doesn't mean they are legitimately Freemasons, aka France. Good afternoon, Integrity. Well, thank you, Phil. That's very kind of you, and I appreciate it very much. Um, the more help, the better. Help me turn my passion for Freemasonry into a profession. I'm almost at 4,000 subs. It's taken a while to get there, but I'm almost there. Hello, Hollywood Uncovered. Thank you for being here as well. I hope you're doing well. I can see you, Your Excellency. How's it going? I hope you're doing well and having a good day. Thank you, YouTube Stabworthy. It's not off topic. I think we as Freemasons have a responsibility to maintain our health physically and mentally. That allows us to better contribute to our Masonic lodges and our communities. It helps us set a good example for those people in the communities, and it connects to the social health benefits of Freemasonry. So I try to show my workouts every now and then. I also show them on other platforms as well. Um, all Masons know 3 questions to ask and answer correct. I don't know what that's referring to. When you join Freemasonry, and if you want to advance, you have to memorize, at least an emulation ritual, you have to memorize the answers to certain questions, but there's more than 3 of them. I'm not sure what that means. Hollywood, you are not alone, believe me. A lot of people are struggling financially right now. That actually does apply to Freemasonry. A lot of Masons are feeling stuck financially, and how they're dealing with it is really challenging. And it's challenges for Freemasonry as well, right? You cannot separate the conditions of Freemasonry from the conditions of the community in which you're living. Um, I have no idea, Phil. That's a very theological question, and Freemasonry is not the place to answer that. I can speak for me, myself personally, and say I believe the Grand Architect does not have a plan, but does have a will. there are things the grand architect wants to see and desires or favors, but whether we as humans fulfill those, you know, desires is not something that can be planned for. It's up to us with our free will. But the more we live in accordance with nature, the closer we are to fulfilling that plan. But that is my own opinion on that. That is not a, you know, certainly I would think, I think, and I don't want to speak specifically about this because I can only give in generals. To my understanding, if you're Christian, you will tend to believe that the great architect does have a specific plan. I think that's true for Muslims as well. I think other religious faiths, maybe indigenous faiths, they view it less as a plan and a will. But again, I want to be very careful because I could be mistaken. So, um, no idea what you're talking about, Your Excellency. Freemasonry, I'm not better than anyone else because I'm a Freemason. I'm better than other people to the extent that, well, I'm not better than anybody else, period. If you want to talk about being better than other people in a particular context, like, I'm not better than anyone else or any other Mason. I have more, I guess you'd say, authority in a lodge as a worshipful master, but that's a different thing. Um, like it's kind of like a coach is not better than the quarterback, but the coach has authority to tell the quarterback which plays to operate or which plays to run. I am not better than any other Mason, but I do have in my lodge, when we're meeting, authority to tell other Masons, what we're going to do, the schedule of events, how we're going to run the meeting in accordance with the Book of Constitution and blah, blah, blah. How did I just contradict myself? I could have misspoke, that's possible. I don't know, do not know who Truther777 is. Well, I mean, having authority within a certain sphere does not make you better than somebody else. It does just grant you more authority. Yeah, I think, Your Excellency, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm going to have to put you in a bit of a timeout because I do not know what you're talking about. I got to get my table fixed. For the record, once again, it's revelation. I know it's a little thing. It's not revelations. At least I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not a biblical scholar, but I'm really positive it's revelation. Um, I guess from what you told me, I understand that Masonry wants to provide positivity to humanity, but Freemasonry. So this is my source of income. At least I'm trying to make it my source of income, and I have my savings. But please hit like, please hit subscribe, and please consider a super chat. I'd really, really appreciate it. Um, I guess from what you told me, I understand that Masonry wants to provide positivity to humanity, but does Freemasonry want everyone to be a Mason? And if no, why would some get excluded? Well, exclusion, I'm not a big fan of that term per se, but exclusion, quote unquote, it's necessary to ensure joining of your own free will and accord, right? Like, if I were to say, okay, everybody's a Freemason, whether you want to be or not, or you choose to be or not, well, then being a Freemason stops meaning anything, right? What makes Freemasonry, and not just Freemasonry, but what makes joining any lodge special, ultimately, first and foremost, is your choosing to do so of your own free will and accord. So if everybody's a Mason, then it stops being a matter of joining of your own free will and accord. Um, it just like if everybody's your best friend, then nobody's your best friend. Thank you, YouTube, for these stars. That's so kind. Let's keep it going. Let's make it to 50. But that's incredibly kind of you. Um, right? And so asking the question like, does Freemasonry want everyone to be a Mason? I mean, no, I don't want everyone to be a Mason. I want the people who want to be Masons. Um, so long as they understand what it means to be a Freemason, as long as they're joining for the right reasons. If they're joining because they think they're gonna get rich or get famous or make lots of money, then I don't want them to join because they're joining for the wrong reasons. They're gonna be disappointed. Um, Now, in terms of the question of, um, you know, I mean, Masonry, I think it's not that Masonry wants to do anything because Masonry doesn't have desires in that way. Rather, I think Freemasons, I think it's not that Masonry wants to provide positivity to the world, it's that Freemasonry does provide positivity to the world simply through its existence. I mean, I'll use this as an example. Football. Football, if you are an NFL team, if you play in the NFL, you're not doing that because you want to provide positivity to humanity, but it just does, right? It does it through the charitable efforts of the team, as well as providing entertainment for the community and the city, as well as providing a sense of civic pride, as well as demonstrating to others the value of things like hard work, dedication, practice, teamwork, sportsmanship. So in that way, it's not that it wants to; it just does. And I think any civic group or civic engagement, by its nature, provides positivity to humanity. That's why I am a Freemason because I think it provides positivity to humanity. That's not its goal. That's simply what it does. The goal is to spend time with one another. The positivity is a byproduct of that. And you know, to the extent that it excludes because to join Freemasonry needs to be of your own free will and accord and needs to be something you understand. The reason, for example, Freemasonry excludes children, you can't join until you're of a certain age, has to do with, amongst other things, um, amongst other things, the fact that if you're a kid, you can't really understand what it means to join a group organization. That's why kids can't take obligations or sign contracts or anything like that. There are youth groups, which is a slightly different thing, and there are Masonic youth groups. But if that makes any sense. I didn't, as of yesterday, I was at the Masonic Temple. I'll check again today. I might be going there. Um, you do the you do know the Romans made Christianity for a dying Roman Empire. Well, Freemasonry is not a religion. I know many Christian Freemasons. They would strongly disagree with that one, and I would as well, though I'm not Christian myself. And that is exactly why 90+% of people join in Texas. Well, they're going to be disappointed. They're not going to get any benefits financially from being a Freemason, nor really any social status. So I don't know why they would do that. That would be silly. Um, Deflategate. Who is deflating whom? Jensen, please like and subscribe. Nice. $800 YouTube Stabworthy. You should be so proud of yourself. That's a great contribution to society, and you should be proud of that. I'm always checking what's happening on Twitter and X and CNN in case anything pops up that might be relevant to the stream. Um, I'm always been a little bit more on the ends justify the means approach to life by hook or by crook. It just depends what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to achieve, right? That's where the question comes in. That's what I'm going to ask you. Veil and sin are true. Remember that. So is goodness and virtue and kindness. I am familiar with Texas, but maybe not so much Southeast Texas. I've been to Gonzales, Texas, and I loved it. I've been to a whole bunch of different places in Texas: Fort Worth, Dallas, Arlington, and Gonzales. Loved it. Texas is a really beautiful state, at least what I've seen of it. But I admit I've seen very little of it, so I would hope I get to see more of it in the future. I mean, it's possible, but whatever you say, I think we also have to. We can do research. We can check to make sure we know what we're contributing to, but we also have to have some faith in our systems. Otherwise, it makes it very hard for society to function. Philosophers, welcome. That's a very good skill you've got. So congratulations. That's awesome. Keep up the good work. And if you can turn ash into diamonds, then you can certainly give me a $2 super chat. Um, my nose hairs are fine. I don't know what you're talking about. But I do hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button. And let me know if there's anything you want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral. I hope I'm answering the questions well. And thank you. You've had some good questions on this stream so far. 25 times 4 is 100, Devin. I'm not the smartest person ever, but I do know that. We're going to keep hanging out. Wait to see who joins. Any thoughts on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear them. Devin, thank you for that. If you want, you can do a super chat to show your appreciation. A $2 super chat gets you your text read out, your comment, your super chat read out text to speech. You can also join my membership. I do not have glasses. What's 516x 879? I have no idea. Introverted errant. That's a good question, but there is no single answer to that, introverted, because every new initiate will be joining for different reasons. In fact, one of the best things that we can do, as Freemasons is make sure that we talk to a new initiate, or at that point an applicant, about what do they want to get from Freemasonry, what are they hoping to get from Freemasonry. Some new initiates, what they get is they feel closer to their families, especially if their families were themselves Freemasons. Some get a sense of brotherhood. Some develop skills and abilities, especially around memorization. Some may get financial support, especially if they are struggling and they get that social safety net. Some may just be looking to make new friends. I mean, Freemasonry is often very popular amongst new Canadians or immigrants just because it's a kind of a immediate source of brotherhood. Some may find they just love it. Who knows why, right? It's like, what is your favorite song, right? You just, you love it because you love it. And that's something I always try to tell people with Freemasonry. You don't always choose the things you love, whether it be your favorite song, your favorite music, your favorite sport, your favorite color. It picks you as much as you pick it. If I was a crayon, I would be the color pink because pink is my favorite color in the world, in honor of Bret the Hitman Hart. No idea what the relationship between the wolf, the dragon, and the griffin is, so I can't help you with that. What's up, Jason? Thank you for being here once again. I hope you're doing well. Sogo, you need to calm down a bit. Don't love people on YouTube. Love people in your real life. I think the teachings of Freemasonry and origins of Freemasonry are, well, I mean, it's not really possible for Freemasonry to be corrupted by evil in a meaningful way because Freemasonry is decentralized. Individual Masons can be evil because we're humans and humans can fall to evil and vice, and usually it's a little bit complicated. Human beings are very rarely perfectly good or perfectly evil. But nonetheless, it's possible for Freemasons, it's possible for groups potentially to do something similar, but for example, if let's say a Masonic lodge in England, quote unquote, fell to evil, that doesn't apply to Freemasons in Ontario because we're a separate jurisdiction, separate order, separate governance, separate rules. So What happens if you keep halving a circle? Well, eventually, the circle will get so small you can no longer see it, I suppose. That's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. One of the greats, genuinely one of the greatest of all time. Probably the most important wrestler of the 90s and 2000s. Maybe. You could argue, anyways. Um, so, gun ownership and gun laws, that's a political question, YouTube stab worthy. Every Freemason will have his own personal opinion on gun ownership laws and rules. Freemasonry has no official stance. Freemasonry has no official stance on things like gun ownership or any political question. In fact, you'd not be allowed to discuss it in a Masonic lodge. What I will say, though, is in my experience, for me personally, I'm not a fan of gun ownership, but that's me. That's not a Masonic view. I've known Masons who are very pro gun ownership, and I've known many Masons who are very anti gun ownership, and many Masons who are right in between. When you say this, I assume you're referring to Freemasonry, or do you mean YouTube? But neither Freemasonry nor my channel is a cult. So no. Again, every Freemason will have his own opinion on that. I've known some Freemasons, Jason, who take their kids to private schools, and I've known some who use public, and I'm sure they all have their own opinions. A circle is a line too that connects. We are getting quite geometrically philosophical here. That's for sure. I'm 2 subs away from 3,930 subscribers. Help a brother out. Let's get there. And we'll keep hanging out and chatting about Freemasonry. So, as always, any thoughts you have, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. I didn't pay dues to make friends. I could make friends without paying dues. Um, I pay dues because I'm part of an organization that self funds. And so, without those dues, the lodge could not exist, nor could it perform charitable activities, nor could it help make the world a better place. Um, and there's the nice idea of if I ever find myself in challenging times financially, I can also gain support from the lodge. So you need to keep that in mind as well. I mean, by definition, right, anything that deals with how laws are created in a country is going to be political. Um, you know, if you're in the States, for example, it's a constitutional question that still is political by its nature, right? So, do a handstand. I've done a handstands a bunch of times on this channel. Hop, Scotch, Daisy. You can find plenty of episodes of that. Please hit like and subscribe. The Catholic Church, I don't know if the Catholic Church thinks we're a cult. The Catholic Church has advised or stated that if you are a member and you are a Freemason, you are not allowed to take communion. But that's just because the Catholic Church misunderstands what Freemasonry is. And hopefully, um, hopefully, fingers crossed, the Catholic Church starts to reconsider its views on Freemasonry. I've always thought because the current Pope is from Chicago, born in Chicago at a time when Freemasonry was very ubiquitous in Chicago and across America, he may have more positive views on it. I don't know for sure, but we'll see. I don't know, but I know many Catholic Freemasons. The extent to which Freemasonry, to which that banishment, I guess is the term, the extent to which that view of being a Freemason is, the extent to which a typical Catholic church will enforce that rule, I have no idea. It might be a matter of, it's just not brought up, or maybe you don't tell your priest, or maybe your priest is not that concerned with it. Like, I know many Catholic Freemasons who seem to have no problem being both Catholic and Freemason. So, Philo, what are you talking about? I don't know what sola scriptura means. That I have no idea. Well, I think people change, right? I think human nature is to change, whether you're Catholic or whether you're Catholic or whether you're Jewish or Hindu or Sikh or Muslim. I think it's a human nature to change, um, for better or worse, kind of thing, right? But I do think if the Catholic Church were to change and the Catholic Church were to if the Catholic Church were to change in the sense of being open to Masonic membership, I think that'd be a good thing, and I hope it happens one day. Um, I don't think it's all deception at its core, but I think you need to be careful the extent to which you allow religion or politics to affect the relationships with people around you. That's a Masonic kind of idea for sure. It's all bureaucracy and worldly authorities and friend politics. I mean, it's just different. It's just a different again, it's one of those things where certainly your religion should be important to you, your political views should be important to you, but the extent to which they start to impact your ability to be a good neighbor and a good friend, I think that's where the problem is. Sola scripture means solely scripture. Catholics believe scripture is enough. I mean, again, I can't speak enough on theology to say. But even I would think, even for any religion, there are things that exist in the world that are simply outside of Scripture, like eyeglasses, right? So clearly, I know many Catholics wear glasses. It can't entirely, the worldview can't entirely come from Scripture, I would think. Um, what is it? What's the truth in Freemasonry that can't be told directly, but recognized? I'm not sure what that means. I mean, I think any truth can be told. The recognition of it is experiential. Like like I can tell you that you can contribute. I can tell you that teamwork will help you contribute greatly to uh, your community, or you can accomplish more with teamwork. That's a truth I can tell you, but until you actually experience it by being on a football team, you're not going to truly recognize it. I can tell you that Freemasonry is about brotherly love, relief, and truth, which is true. But until you're actually a Freemason, you won't really truly recognize it. You'll hear it, but recognition or understanding comes from the experience. You can know how to ride a bicycle by reading about bicycles in a library. You don't really truly recognize that knowledge until um, until you've actually ridden the bicycle, and that's when you recognize that knowledge more so than just knowing it. We're just going to keep hanging out, wait to see who joins. As always, please take a moment, hit like, hit subscribe. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear it. Karen, hello. I mean, I think it's always present. Again, the less the it's not the lessons within Freemasonry are not unique to Freemasonry. The process by which you learn them is, but the lessons are not, right? So Freemasonry is a process to learning things. It's not about the lessons themselves. Again, you can learn the value like tolerance. as being a good thing, different religious tolerances, tolerance for different people, working with different people. Those are lessons that are always true. The process by which you learn them in Freemasonry through rituals and ceremonies, that's what's unique. But the lessons are not particularly unique. You can learn those lessons in many different places. I just happen to love Freemasonry, and that's how I choose to understand or learn or take part in those lessons. Hello, Cyclic Discipline. Thank you for being here. Um, I am a fan of the Saw franchise. The Saw franchise is one of the few movies, it's one of the few kind of gory franchises which I actually am more of a fan of. For me, it's the best one is the second one by far, followed by Saw 10. It's not on my Mount Rushmore of great horror franchises by any means. For me, it's I would probably start at it goes Nightmare, it goes Nightmare, it goes Halloween, it goes Friday the 13th. That fourth spot would probably be Scream. After that, Leprechaun, Hellraiser, I think is grossly underappreciated. There's a real murderer's row of great movies in there. And then maybe Saw after that. Although I'd also probably put Puppet Master in there somewhere. Children of the Corn is closer to the bottom of that list, but I do enjoy some of those. Well, I think the lesson, Phil, is never stop trying to improve the stone, right? I think that's the lesson, that there's never a point where you should stop trying to improve the stone being a metaphor for oneself. Every day there's something better you can do. Every day there's some way you can improve. And your goal should be to try to improve as much as you can. So, Lord Christ, first of all, you should not be thinking about Freemasonry in terms of rank. It's degrees and offices. Like I'm third degree, I'm worshipful master. I'm 18th degree. You will not meet Baal at any level because Baal is not part of Freemasonry. I never heard of Baal until I started this channel, and then a whole bunch of people started telling me that Baal is all about Freemasonry, which he's not. Plus, isn't he a fictional character? I don't think you can meet him anyways. Hello, Old Minty. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. I hope that you're doing well. Well, I hope there's no zombie apocalypse. I'm rather fond of the world as it is. Well, I mean, the stone is a metaphor, right? I would say the stone is the person, or you could argue the stone is the community around you or the world around you. But either way, you're ultimately working on yourself or the world, and it's work that's never done. It's like brushing your teeth. Every day you have to do it, right? Never seen The Lighthouse. I saw clips of it, but never saw the whole thing. So Freemasonry, again, it's not that Freemasonry has a general belief. Freemasons will have a general belief. To be a Freemason, you must believe in a supreme being. Um, uh, but that could be Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu, Sikh, whatever it might be. There is no specific belief. Rather, every Freemason will have his or her exclusive belief on their idea of a supreme being. Very often it could be Christian, it could be Muslim, it could be Jewish, but if that makes any sense. So I suppose you could say there's a general belief in that every Masonic lodge, everybody in there will have professed a belief in some type of supreme being. I mean, the last movie I saw, I think, was Nuremberg, which I liked. That is a very impressive performance by Russell Crowe and by, I can't think of his name now, but the psychiatrist. I have heard of Jordan Maxwell, but I can't place it now. I don't know from where I've heard that name before, but it does sound really familiar to me. I've been told, I've never actually met a Buddhist Freemason, but I have been told there are Buddhist Freemasons that exist, and it wouldn't shock me. So yeah, I think Buddha could be. I mean, certainly if somebody was Buddhist and came to me and wanted to join Freemasonry, I would definitely say sure. That would be a sufficient supreme being, in my opinion. I don't see why not. Russell Crowe is a great actor. I've seen Unhinged. Never seen Unhinged. So I enjoyed Gladiator. I think most people would say that was Russell Crowe's best movie, and I would agree with that. I loved Gladiator. I'm not usually a huge action fan, but I did like that movie quite a bit. We're going to keep hanging out, wait to see who joins. Don't forget, you can also follow me on a lot of different channels outside of this. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky. All that stuff helps out big time. And if you'd be so kind as to hit that subscribe button, I'm one subscriber away from 3,930 subs. So, help a brother out. Nice. Gladiator is a great film. And you could probably connect it to Freemasonry a little bit in the sense that, in the sense of stonemasonry and stonemasons, when they come to Rome for the first time as gladiators and they see the Colosseum, and right, the one character says, "I did not know men could build such things." That's a pretty cool moment and reminder of all the incredible things that we as human beings are capable of creating, including with stone and maybe through friendship and through hard work. All right, Phil, well, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Well, introverted, I don't think everybody demonizes Freemasonry and everybody has that connotation. But I think, unfortunately, if you spend a lot of time on social media, you can have that connotation. There's a lot of different reasons, but ultimately, and I've argued this before, it connects to the fact that very many people out there are really struggling with their lives. They're facing economic uncertainty, social uncertainty, challenges in their day to day life. And the way they choose to deal with that is by demonizing things that either they don't understand or by demonizing things that they think they understand based on social media content. It's easier to spend your day posting nonsense about Freemasonry than it is to look in the mirror and try to change your life for the better if you're struggling. And there's a lot of people struggling right now. And as a consequence of that, there's a lot of people looking for scapegoats and excuses and just things to distract themselves. And Freemasonry provides a huge benefit to distracting oneself. Um, I don't know who Toth is, Stephen McCrae. Quick of the Dead's a great movie, whatever you say. I don't know who Toth is. I don't think Hiram Abiff was ever a real person, for the record. I think he's a legendary figure or an apocryphal figure, not a real quote unquote figure. That's just my theory, for whatever it's worth. But Quick and the Dead is a great movie. Toth was Hermes. Well, Hermes was the god of metalwork, right? I think in Rome it was Vulcan, but the god of metalwork and forgery. So, no, because I mean, from a Masonic perspective, Hiram Biff would be considered to be a human being, whereas Hermes or Thoth were both gods um, in ancient Greece, if I recall correctly. Oh, never mind. He was the messenger of the god, right? Who was the god of metalwork? Hephaestus, sorry. Hephaestus was the Greek god of metalwork, blacksmiths, and fire. Let me see who the god of stonework was in Greece. Interesting, though, most scholars derive the name Hermes from the Greek word herma, which refers to a heap of stones or cairn. Early Greeks piled stones at roadsides, boundaries, and crossroads to mark territories, and these piles were considered holy to Hermes. Travelers would add a stone to the pile as they passed, invoking his protection. These stone piles evolved into Hermes, square stone pillars, topped with a bearded head of Hermes, which were placed outside homes, at doorways, and at gymnasium entrances as protectors. So there you go. That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, I've said this before. Um, and when we talk about like why Freemasonry is so important or why stone is so important, human history very much is the story of stone, right? It very much is the story of stone and stonework, more so than almost anything else. Like without stone tools, human beings could not have adapted and made their way in the world the way we have. It was stone tools that allowed us to evolve, allowed us to grow our diet, to get more protein. It was stone tools that allowed us to basically evolve. It was stone structures that allowed for permanent settlement, that allowed for the storage of grain and other items. It was stone on which we first recorded information that could be passed down from generation to generation. It was through stone that we first developed our, um, calendars, Stonehenge. Humanity is the story of stone as much as Freemasonry is the story of stone. So, no worries, Courtney. I know it's tough to find free time. Everybody's absolutely swamped right now. So, I just appreciate you being here whenever you can be. It's truly something for which I'm grateful. We were talking about Hermes and his connections to stone, which is really cool. We're going to give it a bit of time. We're going to wait to see who joins. As always, please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, let me know. We're just hanging out and chatting. We've had a lot of really cool discussions. So, Stephen McCrae, are you interested in Greek mythology? Freemasonry, Stephen McCrae, it doesn't have any sacred sites because, again, Freemasonry is not a religion nor a government. I guess a religion would be the type of thing that would, describe a site as sacred. We have incredibly important sites in Masonic history. Freemasons Hall, a lot of cemeteries, um, but they wouldn't be sacred. They would just be important parts of Masonic history. I would say Roslyn Chapel would be considered an important part of Masonic history for sure. I don't know if there's one particular place that would be the most important. I mean, Maybe the George Washington Monument is up there as well. Freemasons Hall in London. But none of these are literally sacred spaces. Some Masons may describe themselves as sacred places, but that's a personal thing. It's important to us. It's sacred to me. That doesn't mean it's sacred in a religious connotation or in, like, no government has to recognize its sacredness, if that makes any sense. We have more, the better way to think about it is heritage. We have a lot of heritage properties because Freemasonry experienced a boom period in the 1920s, which means many Masonic buildings date to the 1920s and have heritage status. Um, yeah, very much so. All history really, Greek is very interesting. I agree. I think Greek is very interesting as well. I took my undergrad in Greece and Rome. It was classical studies and anthropology. And I loved it. I actually did an archaeological dig in England at a Roman fort, which was really, really cool and really fun. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. One of my old friends who was in the craft went to London. That's cool. I mean, when you say went to London, like went to visit Masonic lodges in London, went there for work, went there to visit. A lot of times you can, travel somewhere for a non-Masonic purpose, but still find time to take in a Masonic meeting or tour a Masonic building, whatever it might be. I mean, I always suggest if you're a Mason and you're traveling anywhere, make sure you spend a little bit of time looking up any Masonic lodges that you might pass while you're there and stop in and say hello. It can be a really cool thing and a really cool experience to do so. I understand it's a personal affirmation. I mean, ultimately, Freemasonry is nothing but personal affirmations. Even the obligations you take, a lot of people will say you take an obligation to the lodge. You don't. You take an obligation to yourself. Cybom, we do not worship Lucifer. Freemasonry is not a religion. We do not worship any god or gods, Lucifer or anything else. So very sorry to disappoint. So the Freemason funeral I went to recently, fingers on my hand. Masonic funerals are actually really cool ceremonies. They are part of they're the most public part of Freemason in many ways. At least in Ontario, they're the one place where you don't need to get permission in advance to show up with your Masonic regalia. Masonic funerals, they do have prayers, although I prefer the term invocations. But the thing is, they can be done for any brother who passed away, regardless of their denomination. So you can have a Masonic funeral for a Muslim Mason, a Jewish Mason, Christian, Hindu, Sikh. It doesn't matter. And whenever there's a reference to God or Lord or whatever it might be, it's understood to be referencing the individual beliefs of the membership, not, for example, a Christian God. In the same way we use the term supreme being. Um, okay, I mean, well, it's a really cool thing. A lot of Masons will do that. A lot of Masons do that. In part, it's to show respect to the brother who passed away and to say our goodbyes to him. But also, it's a way to say thank you to the family, right? For when somebody passes away, it's probably the best reminder we have of the finite nature of life and the finite amount of time we have here on earth. We got 80 years. Every minute, every hour is precious. And every hour that a Mason spends with us with a lodge is 1 hour he doesn't get to spend with his family, is 1 hour he doesn't get to spend with his friends, is 1 hour he doesn't get to spend with his kids. And so a funeral kind of brings out into sharp relief how little time we have here on earth. And therefore, it's not just a way to say thank you to the brother who's passed away, but it's a way to say thank you to the family, the friends, for allowing their father, their husband, their brother, literal brother, their colleague, to spend some of their precious time and limited time with us. Um, yeah, to be a Freemason, you have to believe in a supreme being, but that supreme being is completely up to the individual. We have Masons who, again, are Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu, Sikh, whatever it might be. Fingers on my hand, please hit like, please hit subscribe. I'm trying to get to 3,930 subs. I'm almost there. I have no idea why the name Lucifer is put in the Bible, but I'll research that. No, there is no secret language of the lodge, Saibam. What's really cool about Freemasonry is it's practiced in different languages all around the world. I've seen Masonic rituals practiced or performed in Spanish. They can be performed in Japanese. They can be performed in Hebrew, English, obviously, French. Freemasonry very often takes on the lingua mater, the mother language of the communities in which it's practiced. It's meant to cover the cost of food as well as the cost of buildings, as well as the variety of costs. Basically, Freemasonry is meant to be self-funded. Some will charge lower dues and then you pay for the food separately, but very often it's just part of the dues themselves. There is not, Saibam. You don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing wrong with not knowing what you're talking about, but humility is a valuable thing. I've been a Freemason for 20 years. I've traveled to Masonic lodges around the world. So, I mean, you can believe me or not believe me, but I know what I'm talking about. Or the better question, Saibam, is why do you say the secret language? Why do you think there's a secret language within Freemasonry? I have no idea what the writing from Freemasonry organization and ideology from 1944 is, though it sounds like a lot of baloney. In 1944, Masons were being banned in much of Europe due to the Nazi Party, and some of them were being put in concentration camps. I don't want to replace anybody. I just want to turn my passion for Freemasonry into a profession. Somebody has been studying a bunch of Nazi baloney. Makes me think you're probably not a very good person as well. Um, the latter, coffee flavored hot dog. Saibom, I suspect you're a Nazi. I also think you have no idea. Well, I know you have no idea what you're talking about. Um, Freemasonry is not interested in replacing anybody. Freemasonry couldn't. We're people. We're not some separate race of individuals that can replace humanity. We are simply a group of people who are trying, if nothing else, maybe make ourselves better or maybe make our communities better. We have no interest in replacing people. Um, I mean, sometimes it can feel that way. Sometimes it can feel that way for whatever it's worth, but maybe we have to have a little bit of confidence. The Brain Dead Zombie Apocalypse is a Freemason book. Yes, Stephen McCrae, the term blackball is from Freemasons. When somebody applies to join, there has to be a ballot. The ballot is, you vote with a white ball to accept or a black ball to reject. That keeps the ballot private or the vote private. And if you get black balls, that means that you are not, your application is denied. What's a Freemason book? I've never heard of. Well, I mean, there are many Freemasons of all different races. That's the beautiful thing about Freemasonry. There are white Freemasons, the black Freemasons, South America, North America, Indigenous, Asia, Europe, Africa, all different races, ethnicities. Freemasonry is about tolerance for different groups, not trying to replace any one group with any other group. And nor would Freemasonry be designed to replace anybody because we welcome everybody. We do not have a, well, then what am I? And we do not have a ideology, right? Freemasonry is not a political ideology. It's not a religious ideology. The one real ideology we have, if any type, is a belief that it's worth spending time with other people. That's really it, right? Beyond that, every Mason has his own views. Hopefully none as cruel and foolish and dumb as yours, but I suppose what can I say? Anything's possible. One subscriber away from 3,930 subs. Help a brother out. Let's see if we can get there. But this idea of there's a single Masonic ideology is just not true. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions. Freemasonry is decentralized. There is no single governing body. There is no single group controlling Freemasonry or setting an ideology for all Freemasons to follow. Rather, every Mason has to decide for himself or themselves what their ideology is. Yeah, Stephen McCrae, that has been debunked already. It's unfortunate that people still believe that, but it has been debunked. He did not write those books. Or those letters, I think it was. The Manzini letters, if I recall correctly. Hello, Keith Gale. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I hope that you are doing well. Consider a super chat. Just $2. Do all that cool stuff. It'd be much appreciated. And I hope that you're having a good day. We're just hanging out, chatting about Freemasonry. I was going to actually read some different Masonic books on stream, including some parts of Morals and Dogma, but I've just been enjoying answering questions, so I think I'll just keep doing that for now. It's going well. Yes, I got a big nose. I've grown to accept it. What can I say? What about the Los Illuminados? I don't know anything about the Los Illuminados. Uh, so I guess I don't know. I'm curious. Los Illuminados. It's from Resident Evil. A religious cult native from Valdebebos, Spain. Well, that's interesting. I like Resident Evil, actually. Yes, Half Hawk. It's been a while since I've seen you, Half Hawk, Half Man. Don't forget to turn on your notification bell. So whenever I'm streaming, you get the notification and you can find me. A lot of my audience do not have the notification bell turned on. No, I don't know what the precise numbers are, but if it was 80%, I would be shocked. That's way, way, way too high. I mean, if it was more than 20%, I'd be surprised. And also, you got to understand you're talking about, regular lodges, clandestine lodges. But I mean, I would be surprised if it was that high. I would have to look into the number. I mean, if I Google search it, how many lodges as a percentage fall under the auspices of UGLE versus other jurisdictions? Let me see. It would be, well, they did have a lot of jurisdictions in Africa, in fairness. So yeah, that makes more sense. So according to AI overview, based on figures up to 2026, the United Grand Lodge of England oversees approximately 7,000 plus lodges out of an estimated worldwide total of over 40,000. This places UGLE directly in charge of 16 to 18% of all regularly chartered lodges globally. So that sounds closer to correct for me. There is compartmentalization. I mean, sure, I mean, when you are an entered apprentice, you have knowledge of the entered apprentice degree, but not of the fellowcraft degree or not of the master mason degree. If you're York Rite, you don't have knowledge of Scottish Rite degrees and vice versa, other than what you learn just by paying attention. There's also compartmentalization, though, in terms of authority, and that's the biggest thing that people need to understand. The Grand Lodge of Ontario, they have authority within Ontario, but not outside of it. Grand Lodge of Manitoba has authority within Manitoba, but not outside of it, etc., etc. Right? And so, one of the things that you need to keep in mind when you're talking about Grand Lodge authority is there is no single governing body that controls everything. Rather, there are different jurisdictions. Each one has jurisdiction within its own area, but not outside of it. Um, well, what makes an oath strange? Is the Hippocratic Oath strange? Is the oath you take when you're joining the military strange? Is the oath you take when you're becoming a police officer strange? What makes an oath strange, I guess, is the question I would ask. Um, I don't think the oaths within Freemasonry are particularly strange, but well, Albert Wesker is a fictional character, but I don't think he was. I'll ask Google. Was Albert Wesker a Freemason? No, Albert Wesker from the Resident Evil franchise was not a Freemason. Based on the lore, his affiliations and background are he was a high ranking scientist and executive trained as part of the Project W initiative to create a new intelligent human race. He was an undercover agent for Umbrella within the Raccoon City Police Department, leading the Alpha Team. Following the events in the first game, he worked for a rival company to steal Umbrella's research. So there you go. We are not running anything in society. Freemasonry is not a political organization that's not out there trying to run society. So no, that is not the case. Well, Apollo, the Hippocratic Oath, right? Apollo was the god of healing in ancient Greece. But what I would say when it comes to that is, um, one of the beautiful things about an obligation, an oath, is ultimately it's something you take to yourself. You are saying that you are taking an oath to your own consciousness, your own conscience, your own sense of right and wrong, and it's up to you to act in such a manner as to demonstrate that you will focus on those things, right? When people always say you take an obligation to the lodge, my answer is always I took an obligation to myself, and that was it. To nothing else but that. Check out these flowers in honor of springtime. I don't disagree with you, Minotaur. I mean, it's really hard, and you struggle a lot with Grand Lodges. They have their job to do, but it can be tough. This is a volunteer organization, and we're all trying our best, but it can be really, really, really hard. Um, if they don't, Noodle, to my knowledge, convert to a full pentagram. They're missing one of the sides, missing one of the points. I think it's just a coincidence, though. Greasy. Well, if you are part of the KKK, then that's not cool, and you're a bad person or a racist person. So that's not good. That has nothing to do with Freemasonry. That is a completely separate organization, and I'm proud to say they're a completely separate organization. Freemasons should not be racist against anyone of any religion or race or creed or color. So, not good. Well, Grand Lodges are important because you need somebody to set some type of uniformity, right? Otherwise, I mean, if every lodge is free to do whatever they choose with ritual, at a certain point, Freemasonry stops having any uniformity, and then, you know, that's when you get scams, and that's when you get, like, the beautiful thing about Freemasonry is I can travel from my lodge to yours, and even if I'm in a completely different country, completely different place, I can still recognize and understand and get what's happening because there is that uniformity, and that has to be enforced by Grand Lodges. That's just kind of the way it is. I agree. This was in Windsor. Springtime in Windsor is pretty beautiful. Nope, that's not what Freemasons do. Um, it could be. I don't know what Stanley has off the top of my head, but many Masonic lodges used to meet in pubs, actually. Um, the problem with that is it becomes very hard to enforce uniformity. Having said that, there is a value to autonomy as well. If this is truly a volunteer organization, you need a lot of freedom to be able to run your lodge as best as possible. It's a tough balance, centralized authority versus individual autonomy, and no group has ever got it right. But we all try our best. I don't think any group ever finds that balance perfectly. It's tough. Sir Ninja, I used to play Super Mario. Sir Ninja said, "Here's my question to you: have you hit the like button and have you hit the subscribe button? Help me get to 3,930 subs. I'd really appreciate it." Well, I've certainly gained knowledge about Freemasonry and modes of recognition, but that knowledge is not something that makes you special. It's just knowledge about Freemasonry. It's like a family recipe. If I marry into a family and they have a family recipe, I may learn what that recipe is, and that's cool, but that doesn't make me suddenly more powerful or more special or more of a. I'm still a layperson. I just happen to have one piece of knowledge I did not beforehand. Definitely not any legit or otherworldly knowledge. What I do have to do now, though, is run to the washroom. Give me one moment. I'll be right back. The problem with these streams, I got to run to the washroom. Be back in a moment. Everybody be good. Well, I think, wasn't he a teacher? I think you're referring. I am back. Hope you guys enjoyed the flowers. But no, I mean, I'm not one who's a believer in spirituality, things like that, as a general rule. So it's not something that I necessarily and automatically kind of associate with. Um, Thank you. That's very kind, Minotaur. Enjoy retirement. Every year, it's young lads that have to deal with this stuff, right? So it's tough. It's really, really tough. People who think Freemasonry is easy, it's not. It's work. It's easy if you join and just don't care and never show up, but it's a whole different thing. Thank you, Courtney. Yeah, in springtime in Windsor is pretty nice. Springtime in Windsor is pretty beautiful, so I was happy to get to show it off a little bit. I get it. There's been many times I've thought about leaving Freemasonry. I was burnt out, tired, exhausted. I still am dealing with Masonic burnout. What I would say is, yes, you have to do what's best for you, but in my experience, usually if you just keep going, you can kind of rediscover that passion. But I understand how exhausting it can be, believe me. It's not easy. And so if you're struggling with Freemasonry, just don't make any rash decisions, I guess is the best I can provide as a piece of advice, as someone who's struggled quite a bit with it. Don't forget to everybody watching this. We have our Patreon, patreon.com/square and compass. I've got some new members, which I'm grateful for. Thank you for that. I hope that you guys will find it. You can join for free, um, or you can, join at different levels. You get some cool stuff. You get some postcards. So I hope you'll consider doing it. Patreon.com/square and compass would be much obliged. Trying to log into something and it's not working. It's very annoying. Oops. Let's try this one more time. Because I'm so good at ritual, they won't make me Tyler. Sorry, I'm not sure what that means. Because I'm so good at ritual, they won't let me. I want to. I would like to. Do you mean finish the cycle as in finish your office? Finish your time in lodge? What does it mean to finish the cycle? I'm not quite sure what that means. I don't disagree that it's important to finish your time in office, whatever it might be, but I know it can get exhausting. Um, we do everything by memory. Okay, I see what you're saying. I mean, yeah, I mean, that can be a good feeling to have gone through each office, um, and to be able to say you've done it. That's a nice feeling to have. I think the most important thing to be able to do ultimately, though, is if you can look in the mirror and say, whatever level you were at, entered apprentice, fellow craft, master mason, if you did your best to help the lodge and grow the lodge, I think that's something you should be proud of. You can do that as an officer, you can do that as a worshipful master, you can do that as an entered apprentice. So I guess that'd be my answer to that. What are you taking as a yes? That's a good question, Courtney, and a lot of people struggle with that. Can you walk away for a while without walking away forever? A lot of people, I think they say they'll walk away for a while and then they end up walking away for a very long time. I have known people who've walked away for a while and then came back, but it's it's rare. Very often when people decide to leave, they just stay left, which is unfortunate. Um, you can take a sabbatical, but you need to be really careful that when you are taking a sabbatical, you have a specific plan to come back. I found if you just walk away and say, I'm never coming back, or if you walk away and say, I'll come back sometime, uh, very often sometime becomes sometimes becomes never or a long ways away. If you do want to take a sabbatical, I would recommend you have a specific plan. Um, you have a specific plan that you plan to follow. It's kind of all you can do. At least that's what I would suggest. Is it hard to join? Kill log? You know what's not hard? What's not hard is hitting the like and subscribe button. I'd be grateful. For Freemasonry, it's not hard to join. There is a process, though. The first step you need to do is you need to be willing to approach the lodge of your own free will and accord. That means you approach the lodge, you can knock on their door, send them an email, write them a letter, call them, and just express your interest in joining, right? That's all you can do to start with, and that's a very easy thing to do. Then you get to know them, they get to know you. You can go out for coffee, grab some food, like whatever it might be, right? And eventually, as they get to know you, if they think that you will be a good fit for the lodge, and more importantly, if you think you're going to enjoy being part of the lodge, what you can do is you can approach the Masons and express your interest, or you can ask for an application. They'll give you some sponsors, and you go from there. There's another committee of three that will meet with you afterwards to once again go over everything with you and talk to you about um, what Freemasonry is. But the first step is the easiest step. You approach the lodge and you express your interest in joining. And that's all you need to do to start. I think a lot of people get overwhelmed by this idea because they feel like as soon as they join, they're immediately going to be a Freemason and they're immediately going to have to, they're immediately going to have to become the worshipful master and this and that. No, just get to know the lodge. Let them get to know you. That's all that matters at the start. It's not. It can take time, right? That's the thing I keep in mind. It can take time. Um, because when it's funny, when I first joined Freemasonry, it was very common. This was in 2007. It was very common to, you know, it's Monday. I show up at the lodge. I say I'm interested in joining. Tuesday, I'm given an application and a couple sponsors. Wednesday, they do a vote, and then 2 months later, I'm a Mason. Now they're really encouraging people to get to know your applicants, get to know your potential candidates, your potential brethren. Go out for coffee with them, bring them out to dinner, special events, get to know the family. And I think that's a better way to approach it myself, is to get to know them. And that also gives you a chance to get to know the brethren and get to know the lodge. So not hard, but can be time consuming. Or can not hard, but can take time, which I think is right. Well, thank you for that, Kellogg 9142. I appreciate that very much. Good morning from Mojikistan. Welcome, AS. So it's usually not that long in Ontario, but they are encouraging longer rather than shorter time periods, that's for sure. I would say the average is probably 5 months, 5 to 6 months, give or take. I mean, you can plug whatever you want, as long as you plug my channel on his YouTube channel. I'd appreciate it, but or plug me other places. But if you enjoy his work, then by all means. I think the beautiful thing about this creator community we have on YouTube is the chance to share the work of others that we really enjoy. Like I would recommend checking out Masonic Roundtable. Is an excellent provides excellent Masonic resources and excellent Masonic resources and excellent Masonic knowledge. Hello, Bates Motel. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. See, we have 30 days between degrees at a minimum. Some brethren may spend years as an entered apprentice in our jurisdiction, but there's a minimum 30-day gap. Norma, I don't think that's actually your name, but I do like Psycho. I'm a horror movie fan, so what can I say? I love Psycho. I think the second one actually is very good and doesn't get the love and respect it deserves by any means. So, on a side note, we're going to give it a bit more time. We're just going to wait to see who joins. Once again, thank you for being here. Please take a moment, hit like, hit subscribe. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. Of the Masonic funeral, I mean, you can send me stuff through my email, as always. Info at squareandcompass.ca. So that's the best way to contact me, info at squareandcompass.ca. We're going to give it a bit more time. Wait to see who joins. I'll be back on at 1 a.m. tonight as well. And I do want to do like longer streams today. So I have to do some work, but you can expect to see me doing some more streams this evening potentially, as well as tonight. Especially because Friday I won't be able to do streams. I'm going to be in London, Ontario, taking care of some medical appointments, which I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about. So. By the way, the Windsor Spitfires are having a game 1 day and 4 hours from now. Game 3, 4-2. So the series is currently 2-1. Go Windsor Spitfires. Get yourself to sleep, Minotaur. In some regions it is. The Philippines, I believe, South America. What'd you think of the game? Congratulations on 4-2. I think that's awesome to see. Go Spitfires. Nice. That's awesome. Go Spits, go, right? I think I've talked about this before, but I try to talk about local things and big up local things as well as the communities I visit as a Freemason because I think A, you cannot separate Freemasonry from the conditions of your city. Trying to trying to promote it, support it, talk about why it's so wonderful can just help the Masonic Lodge in the city because the stronger a city is and the more positive sentiments people have about a city, the more positive sentiments people have about the Masons within the city. If you are able to complement and promote your city and that improves the economy of the city or the community, it will improve the growth of the Masonic Lodge. And also, it sets a good example. Freemasons should be setting good examples, and part of that good example is supporting your community, supporting your lodge. It's one and the same, right? If we as Freemasons are talking positively about our city, that is going to reflect well on the lodge and sets an example for others to follow. So enjoy the game. I've been to a few games. I've loved them. Not as many as I'd like. I mean, I've been a Freemason for 20 years. And sadly, I haven't been to nearly as many games as I should. But it would still be really cool. I'd love to visit some more of them because the games are a blast. I was at one game this year so far. Maybe I'll try to make it to a playoff game. Who knows? We're going to give it a bit more time. We're just going to wait to see who joins. As always, please take a moment, hit like, hit subscribe. I'm sure it will. I mean, like I said, I'm looking at potentially, we don't know for sure it's going to happen or not, but um, potentially being a kidney donor. So I got to do a lot of testing. I may talk about it a little bit on the stream. I'm not going to be doing a regular stream on Friday, but I'll probably stream in the morning and then after the meeting is finished and just talk about like what it was like because it's really interesting um, to see the different tests you have to go through. They got to check your heart, they got to check your heart, they got to check your lungs. You meet with a surgeon. It's really interesting. This flower patch is from the Windsor Riverside, so there you go. Please take a moment if you're just joining us to hit like and subscribe. I'm almost at 3,930. I'm getting close, one away. Maybe we'll get there tonight. I'm sorry about that, Kellogg. That sucks. I mean, it sucks when anybody passes away from anything, obviously, but especially when it's somebody that you know well, like your mother-in-law. So I'm very sorry to hear that. Um, that's why I'm always recommending to people and encouraging people, like, be an organ donor if you can. Register for organ donation. You don't have to certainly be like me and potentially donate while being alive, but you can look at donating after death. Let your executor put it in your will. All that stuff is incredibly important and incredibly helpful. So I recommend people should donate blood, people should donate organs after you pass. Let your next of kin or executors know your wishes. Um, and yeah, very sorry to hear that though. I'm near Outlet Mall. Okay, so you're rocking. I mean, Windsor's a great place. And like I said, so you're not too far from WFCU then. I mean, go Windsor. I love it. It's a great place. Lived here for just about 20 years. Crazy to think it's been that long. Um, We're going to give it a bit more time, wait to see who joins. I will be back on tonight, though. Probably at least a couple more streams. Near LaSalle. Okay. So, yeah. So the opposite direction, actually. It's funny. I've lived here 20 years and I have no idea directions in the city I've, like I said, lived in for about half of my life. Hello, JJ. Welcome. Thank you for being here also. I hope you're doing well. We're going to be, like I said, ending this stream soon. We're just taking questions, hanging out, chatting. Go Spits, go. I'm 42. Just chatting, Zach. 80s metal. By the way, I love 80s metal. I love hair metal. Poison. I'm talking about Freemasonry, but obviously answering questions people have about it. So asking people to hit like and subscribe. Um, and let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. But I do love Poison, Rat, Cinderella. Warrant is an awesome band. So is that what you talk about on YouTube, 80s metal, or are you just Guns N' Roses? Or is that just your screen name? Okay, cool. Do you have any questions or thoughts on Freemasonry? Because I think you're new to the channel. I don't recognize you. I don't recognize the name. I feel like I would have. I feel like I would have recognized it. I just go to lives and hop around. Well, nothing's wrong with that if you enjoy doing it. I've never seen your channel before, so this isn't an endorsement per se, but I hope people will check out Zach's 80s metal. And if you enjoy the channel, then subscribe. Freemasonry, it refers to a civic or community group that has existed for about 300, over 300 years. Think about it like a club of which I'm a member. So Freemasonry is not a religion of any sort, right? So it's not Christian, nor is it Muslim, nor is it Jewish. It's not a religion, although we do have many Freemasons. To be a Freemason, sorry, many Christians, to be a Freemason, you have to believe in a supreme being. So certainly, what that means is if you're a Christian, you can join Freemasonry, or if you're Muslim, if you're Jewish, whatever it might be. Um, That's cool. I mean, many Freemasons do. Again, being a Freemason is not a religion or is not meant to represent or take the place of one's religion. So many Freemasons believe in Christ. Many, again, might be Muslim, might be Jewish. Um, but certainly it sounds like like Christ would be your supreme being, which is cool. I agree. Freemasonry is very cool. So please hit like, please hit subscribe. We're going to give it a bit more time. We're going to wait to see who joins. As always, please take a moment, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and thank you so much, Zach. We did it, I think. We are now at very close to, we are now at over 3,930 subs, so that is awesome. And everybody check out Zach 80s Metal channel, and if you enjoy his stuff, then subscribe to him as well. And we got some hearts. Thank you for that. There might be Smokey the Clown in the in the channel. If it is, welcome Smokey, or if that's you, Zach, thank you for that as well. I truly appreciate it. You have no vids. Oh, so when you say, I thought, so you say you check out other people's stuff. When you said you go live and hop around, I thought what you meant is you like hop around to different topics on your live streams. Never mind. In that case, thank you for the sub. I appreciate it. Um, and yeah, I'm glad that maybe I've taught you a little bit about Freemasonry. I don't know where you're from, but there's different Masonic lodges all around the world. So there's probably one within your area somewhere. We're going to give it a bit more time. We're going to wait to see who joins. As always, please hit like, please hit subscribe. Thank you for the hearts. I'll be back on tonight doing some exercises, and then I'll be back on at 1 a.m. So I would love to travel to France one day too. I've never been to France. I've been over France, I think. I flew over it. No, I actually wouldn't have. So I've been to England, never been to France, but I'd love to visit France. A lot of cool masonry in France. We're going to give it a bit more time. Thank you all for being here. I hope you're all having a great day. And thank you. Got a lot of really great questions about Freemasonry, so I appreciate it very much. Actually, I think what I'll do is we're going to end this stream at this time, but find me tonight, find me 1 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you guys so much. Have a great, great day, and I'll see you all soon.